It's time now to take a look at our lead. Chief Justice Mandi Samaya is set to meet with the acting judge president in the Eastern Cape on Tuesday. This after an explosive investigative report by the Southern Africa Accountability Journalism Project revealed rampant corruption at the Mthatha High Court, with officials allegedly soliciting bribes to do their work. Last month, legal watchdog, the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund, signed a memorandum of understanding aimed at fighting corruption, malpractice and fraud in the legal sector. Now, to tell us more about these developments and the MOU, we're now joined by the CEO at the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund, Mr. Motlatsi Molefe. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, and good morning to you and your viewers.
What immediate actions has the LPFF implemented to combat corruption in the legal sector, particularly in response to the recent allegations at the Mthatha High Court?
Well, the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund has very little to do with the issue that is happening in the High Court in Mthatha. I think that's a matter for the Department of Justice or the Office of the Chief Justice and the Judge President in that division. However, to the extent that some of those issues that have been alleged to be happening that relate to corruption, I would want to limit it specifically to the question of impact that it might have on the fund, where, say, some matters settled and money received by practitioners and it is either stolen or misappropriated. In that event, we would have to step in to settle those claims. But it is important to note that even at this point, the biggest claims that we see in the last 12 months or so that have come through from a practitioner in that division. So we are actually investigating that specific issue, and we are continuously notifying members of the public of their rights in order for them to protect themselves from any malfeasance emanating from anywhere in the country, not necessarily in the Eastern Cape High Court in Mthatha.
And what is the current status of the investigation into corruption allegations at the Mthatha High Court, and have any wrongdoings been identified?
Well, I can't comment on what has been an investigation, if there has been any, in relation to the High Court in Mthatha. What I can simply comment on is one individual who the regulator has had struck off from the role of practitioners and who we continue to actually try to investigate fully in conjunction with the Special Investigating Unit, which is actually providing us reports per case where it is alleged that he stole money that belongs to his clients.
Have any individuals been arrested or prosecuted in connection with the alleged corruption?
Well, in respect of the specific individual, yes, he's already been appearing in court on a number of matters, and those matters are basically parted on trial, and we hope that eventually the state will get a conviction and actually have him sent off to prison.
Now, Mr. Molefe, what measures will be established to protect whistleblowers and attorneys who report corruption, especially given the concerns expressed by the public and whistleblowers regarding their lack of protection?
We have a whistleblowing line, which we share with the regulator. And normally when those come through, they come through anonymously. But what is particularly important, which whistleblowers must note, is the fact that as a rule, we actually do not even know who they are, save for the fact that we have received a report. And more often than not, that report, when investigated, can be verified independently, for instance, through the bank statements of the particular practitioner. So eventually action can be taken against a specific practitioner against whom there has been an anonymous report without so much needing the evidence of the whistleblower. So their protection is almost 100% guaranteed, because evidence extraneous of their report actually tends to prove their allegations. So that doesn't really become an issue at all.
And how do you think that the alleged corruption affects public confidence in the legal system?
I think it's always important to bear in mind that the existence of the fund itself is to ensure that the public continues to retain confidence in the legal profession, in the sense that if someone steals your money, who is a practitioner, we as the fund have an obligation in terms of the Act, the Legal Practice Act, to actually compensate you. So it becomes very, very important for us to actually say to the public, use the services of legal practitioners with confidence, on the clear understanding that we will compensate you under certain circumstances. And it is important to say we will compensate under certain circumstances, because there are certain elements of legal practice, or just at the periphery of legal practice, that are excluded specifically from compensation by the Fidelity Fund. I'll make you a simple example, Mr. Chaba. Where you give money to a practitioner, for instance, on the basis that he is to invest it on your behalf, that is excluded from cover by the Fidelity Fund, because it is not in the normal practice of a legal practitioner that he does that, unless he is a holder of a license given by the Financial Services Conduct Authority. And in that respect, that falls outside of our cover. But generally, we accept that when there is malfeasance, that undermines confidence in the profession. But what we actually need to do, and which we are doing, is going out of our way to educate consumers of legal services of their rights and the understanding that the fund exists for them. Whatever the circumstances they report to us, we will investigate. If their claim is valid, we will pay. So they need to continue to believe in the legal profession, primarily as well because in this country you have in excess of 30,000 legal practitioners. But when you look at the number of the people that commit malfeasance like theft, they are a drop in the ocean compared to the numbers. So there are many ethical legal practitioners there in their thousands who are being undermined by a few who actually continue to conduct themselves unethically and commit rapacious theft against members of the public.
Motlatsi, tell us more about the MOU and its specifics. How did the proclamation come about? And will the Legal Practitioners Fidelity Fund be meeting with Chief Justice Mandi Samaya in the Eastern Cape as well?
Well, at this point, there is no plan to meet with the Chief Justice. I think that's a matter for the Chief Justice and her high courts. But insofar as the SIU and the LPFF MOU is concerned, it is very, very important to note that the SIU literally is already in possession of a proclamation from the president that deals with investigations around medical malpractice claims that are spread countrywide, and where there has been allegations of theft associated with that. And they're also in possession of a proclamation that relates to the Road Accident Fund, where there are allegations of malfeasance by practitioners and other stakeholders that are involved in that value chain. So our view, when we actually entered into this MOU with the SIU, was based on the fact that the SIU has got much more investigative powers, much more subpoena powers, and much more speedy in actually approaching the tribunal in order to freeze assets or monies that are basically linked to criminal activity flowing from this type of claims. What is important to note is the fact that from the LPFF side, we actually do not have sufficient capacity to deal with these things almost as quickly as they do. So we're leveraging on their powers in order to ensure that we continue to remain sustainable, to try to recover from the thieves, the monies they took, and to try and get hold of assets that they may probably try to hide after they have committed acts of thievery. The second issue that I want to make as a point is the fact that, as recently as Friday, when my team and I were reviewing one of the matters that were involved in medical malpractice claims in the case at an area, when we looked at a particular trust account statement, we discovered that there was an amount in excess of 10 million rands that had been paid into that trust account that had been misappropriated. But on further inquiry by the regulator, it became very clear that there were no records within the department itself of the payment of that money, which portends a very simple scenario of collusion between the practitioner concerned and officials within the Department of Health. That falls squarely within the purview of the SIU, but we would not have the power to subpoena the officials of the Department of Health to give us information around that issue, around that payment in particular. But the SIU will definitely have that. So it is a win-win scenario for us in the sense that whilst trust accounts are being used or abused for purposes of nefarious collusion like that, we do not have the teeth to actually bite the people involved. But the SIU does, and by actually acting together, we should be able to root out that kind of conduct, and we should actually stem the losses that the fund actually incurs as a result of such conduct.
All right. Let's talk about a timeline for a resolution. When can the public expect to receive a full and transparent account of the investigation's findings and outcome?
I am not in a position to say that, because if you are referring to corruption in general or whatever is happening in Umtata or alleged to be happening, that is outside of my purview. But in terms of the fund itself, we actually generally have chosen to, on a very regular basis, release the names of people that are involved in malfeasance, publish them so that members of the public may know that these practitioners cannot and should not be touched. But in terms of specific investigations against specific people, we will always be in a position to say to a claimant, for instance, we are looking into your matter. This is how far it has gone, and we will actually be advising you constantly of what is going on. You need to bear in mind, Masichaba, that the whole issue is a shifting ground, the issue of theft by legal practitioners, because in as much as you may have 2 today, you will have 4 tomorrow, or you might even have less. So all we need to do is to continuously keep members of the public in the loop about what we do. But that we will have a generic report that says these are the outcomes is something that we probably cannot do because of the nature of how we are structured and of the nature of the complaints that we receive. They're generally individual claims, and we advise people on an individual basis. But once there has been a group together that has been found guilty, we'll always actually publish that, as we are entitled to do, and to notify members of the public to be wary about the use of such practitioners.
All right. Before I let you go, Motlatsi, are there plans to expand the LPFF's collaboration with other stakeholders, such as law enforcement agencies or civil society organizations? And what are the LPFF's top priorities in the coming months?
Actually, Chaba, even at this point, we are in collaboration. It's been there for a number of years, but we need to escalate it. We have what we call a joint stakeholders committee, where we as the LPFF, the law enforcement agencies, the NPA, and the asset forfeiture units sit together on a quarterly basis to review matters which we believe that focus should be placed on. And we are actually hoping that in the next few months, we should be able to conclude formal memorandums of understanding with all the stakeholders that are involved in this value chain. The immediate priority that we have at this point as the fund is to now focus on talking to members of the public. In the past, we have held stakeholder engagements primarily with practitioners to indicate to them that by actually doing certain things, they undermine the reputation of their own profession and are losing the confidence of users of legal services. We have decided that the immediate priority in